Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Scholz. Today we have a new story for you, and it's a tale, a very old and very famous tale, about, I'd say, mistaken identity, but really it's stolen identity. This is the Goose Girl. Once upon a time, an old queen whose husband had been dead for many years had a beautiful daughter. When she grew up, she was betrothed to a prince who lived a great way off. Now, when the time drew near for her to be married and to depart into a foreign kingdom, her old mother gave her much costly baggage and many ornaments, gold and silver, trinkets and knickknacks, and in fact everything that belonged to a royal trousseau, for she loved her daughter very dearly. She gave her a waiting maid also, who was to ride with her and hand her over to the bridegroom, and she provided each of them with a horse for the journey. Now, the princess's horse was called Falada, and could speak. When the hour for departure drew near, the old mother went to her bedroom, and taking a small knife, she cut her fingers till they bled, and then she held a white rag under them, and letting 3 drops of blood fall into it, she gave it to her daughter and said, "Dear child, take great care of this rag, it may be of use to you on the journey." So they took a sad farewell of each other, and the princess stuck the rag in the front of her dress, mounted her horse, and set forth on the journey to her bridegroom's kingdom. After they had ridden for about an hour, the princess began to feel very thirsty, and said to her waiting maid, "Pray, get down and fetch me some water in my golden cup out of yonder stream. I would like a drink." "If you're thirsty," said the maid, "dismount yourself and lie down by the water and drink. I don't mean to be a servant any longer." The princess was so thirsty that she got down, bent over the stream and drank, for she wasn't allowed to drink out of the golden goblet. As she drank, she murmured, "Oh heaven, what am I to do?" And the 3 drops of blood replied, "If your mother only knew, her heart would surely break in 2. But the princess was meek, and said nothing about her maid's rude behavior, and quietly mounted the horse again. They rode on their way for several miles, but the day was hot, and the sun's rays smote fiercely on them, so that the princess was soon overcome by thirst again. And as they passed a brook, she called once more to her waiting maid, "Pray get down and get me a drink from my golden cup." For she had long ago forgotten her maid's rude words. But the waiting maid replied, even more haughtily than before, "If you want a drink, you can get down and get it. I don't mean to be your servant." Then the princess was compelled by her thirst to get down, and bending over the flowing water she cried and said, "Oh heaven, what am I to do?" And the 3 drops of blood replied, "If your mother only knew, her heart would surely break in 2. And as she drank thus, and leaned right over the water, the rag containing the 3 drops of blood fell from her bosom and floated down the stream, and she in her anxiety never even noticed her loss. But the waiting maid had observed it with delight, and she knew it gave her power over the bride, for in losing the drops of blood, the princess had become weak and powerless. When she wished to get on her horse Falada again, the waiting maid called out, "I mean to ride, Falada, you must mount my beast." And this too she had to submit to. Then the waiting maid commanded her harshly to take off her royal robes and to put on her common ones, and finally she made her swear by heaven not to say a word about the matter when they reached the palace, and if she hadn't taken this oath, she would have been killed on the spot. But Falada observed everything, and laid it all to heart. And that is part 1 of the Goose Girl, and we can tell that this identity switch is coming soon, can't we? The waiting maid is clearly laying a trap for the princess. This is Dan Scholz for the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Threads and Instagram at Folktale Project, and you can find us wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. As always, thank you so much for listening.